I don't know what made me become an artist. There's no creativity in my family. There's not a granddad or an uncle I've copied off. My dad was in the Navy, so he was never around. My school took me to an art gallery called Aspects. And I knew then, going into the building, that I wanted to be an artist. And here I am, nearly 40 years later, and I'm still living that dream. So if it wasn't for the school taking me to a gallery, I don't think I would be standing here today or doing what I do now.
Where did the idea of using Braille within your work come from?
So I've always been fascinated with dots, from a dot. I was born with limited sight in my right eye, and how I used to say to people how I see was looking for 1,000 dots. So I was fascinated with the art form pointillism. I always used to felt tips, just paint with dots. And then, coming up to 2019, my friend gave me a Perkins Braille typewriter. Amazing machine, and I learnt Braille in 3 weeks just because I saw it as a pattern. As an artist, our brains are geared to patterns. So what I did is I blew up the dots to button size, created the alphabet, gave it to a person who could read Braille. She knew exactly what it was, and that was the light bulb moment for me. Oh, why can't Braille be used in an art form? You know, it's almost like it's typography. It's just that I can use the Braille dot to host the English language, and that's what I've been doing over the last 7 years to become the leading Braille artist in the world. I was told that I was losing my sight, coming up to 13 years ago now. And when I got back into art, the idea is if I can't engage with it through drawing, how can I physically engage with it and touch? So take away the dot, I was touching, I was working with fabrics, I was working with buttons, the idea of physically handling something. So I did my artwork, it made sense for other people to touch my artwork because that's the way I see my art. The only way I see it is through touch. I don't see it visually, so it's really important that my artwork, there's big signs saying you must touch the artwork. At the time, I ripped up some blue jeans, I got some buttons, it was on calico, and I stitched it. And I've still got that piece today, and I call it my Rosetta Stone. I feel that, and I go to schools and I talk about it, and I say about it. This piece made me who I am today. I'm always evolving. I've created my colour-coded Braille, which you'll see later on in other pieces that I'll make for the gallery. I'm always pushing the boundaries of how far I can push the Braille dot. I never rest on my laurels. And that's the beauty of words. Words are endless. And that's what excites me every morning when I wake up. What are the possibilities of me making and designing new pieces every day? I am the leading Braille artist in the world. If Andy Warhol was alive today, I would be collaborating with Andy Warhol. So basically that makes me a Braille pop artist, if that makes sense. And people know what pop artists are. There's loads of them out there, popular culture, just that I work in Braille. Mr. Dot, so it's evolved. So I was like Clark Reynolds, the blind artist. That's a mouthful. And then I got rid of the Clark Reynolds and came the blind artist. And then I became the blind Braille artist. But I think it came about me going to schools. I do a lot for raise awareness through sight loss, through the use of Braille. And you need to be a character. Those kids are going to remember someone. So Mr. Dot just fitted, really. So I created the dungarees. I've got a children's book out called Mr. Dot and His Magical White Cane Adventures. So Mr. Dot encompasses all that I do, from artwork to advocacy. And I'm sure when I go into the lovely dot in the sky on my tombstone, it will read Mr. Dot P. Like any good artist, I'm inspired by what has happened around the world, my own life. So the story comes first, and the idea is like, how can I encapsulate that story in the Braille cell? And we talked about the dots, but I've used other shapes to give a storytelling. I've done a piece, Union Jack, and I've used X's as the dots. And it was all about me as a blind person not being able to vote in secret. I had to be told who I'm voting for. So in that piece is the chronological order of all the prime ministers in Braille, but in X's. So the idea is storytelling. And it's mathematical as well. So like any good artist, they composite, oh, is this going to look right? So I composite in words. So once I figure out the story, I create the image, and then I have to edit myself for the words. So it all comes down to the words first, then the image to encapsulate the words. I think in this day and age, especially obviously pre-COVID, it's interesting, the idea of not touching anything. So majority of galleries, it's really strange. So I went to a sculpture, Barbara Hepworth sculpture thing, and you could touch all the sculptures, right? You go into Margate Turner Contemporary, right? They've got Barbara Hepworth sculptures there, barriers all the way round. What changed from it to being a gallery that you can't touch? Those sculptors, the sculptrists, you would call it, made that piece of artwork to be engaged with. And because it's now in a gallery or a museum, you can't engage with it. And that's sad, isn't it? That really is sad. So I talk about the costings of art and obviously when people buy it and stuff, but hopefully when people buy my art, they're buying into the story that hundreds and thousands of people have touched this piece and it's part of that story when they purchase this art. That's really important that my art is never have a barrier because there's too many barriers in the art world, especially with disabilities. Excellent.
Do you think galleries need to do more to make art genuinely accessible rather than simply just saying that they are accessible?
That's the hornet's nest, it really is. I've lived life as a sighted artist and as a blind artist, and the gulf between the two is massive. There's other disabilities, but because we live in a creative world that's a visual world, it's a visual stimulation. And the idea that what I do here, right, is a hobby. In people's mind, as an artist, as a blind artist, I'm not a professional. And I need to change that. The idea is that I can't be the only one to push the barriers. I want the vision impaired children growing up to be able to interact with a gallery, museum stage situation where they're creating artworks that are for everyone. Even though I use Braille, it doesn't matter. The idea is you can physically touch artwork and it gives you a new experience. So we know how elitist the art world is, right? And the snobbery that's attached to it. So can you imagine the snobbery attached to my world? And also, because I don't have an MA or a PhD, in my world, the disability art world, I'm seeing more of a hobbyist because I'm not academic enough to partake in their little gatherings. How can you work with colour? You don't see colour with your eyes, you see with your memory. I have a memory of colour. My background is in model making, so I create jigs so I can still create the artwork to make my life better. I know my sight's not going to get better, it's not going to get worse, and I still want to be able to create, so I'm always thinking of adapting to myself. And I don't see myself as with a disability, because I work with my art, I see with my art, and the disability is a negative word. I'm a blind artist, I love being blind, I love who I am, and I just want to inspire the next generation of blind artists out there that they can do anything they want to. Being blind has, like I said, I've just mentioned that, being blind has made me a better artist. It's made me realise how hard it is to adapt to a visual world. So with my artwork, I can be that person that I want to be. And there's so many ways society can make it an accessible space for visually impaired people, not just through touching art, but also having safe spaces, having all the descriptions, having great staff like yourself that you can. We just went around the car park and you all described what was going on. It's not hard to do that without being patronising. And I think a lot of galleries do patronise blind people when it comes to the art world. I am a big fan of popular culture, especially Andy Warhol, the idea of replication, the print world. Even though I don't do print, I have those, when I'm designing my work, I use those techniques. So if you're printing, they break that image down to its shapes, its bare minimum shapes. And that's what I do when I'm creating my art. I break it down just to its shapes. And then from those shapes, I then pixelate it. So it becomes an image that you would see instinctively, but I still have that same process. So I'm enamoured by the world around me, so that's popular culture, so that's what inspires me.
What has been the proudest moment of your
Every time I'm pushing the boundaries, I've done so much, that we talked about that gallery aspects. My first contemporary exhibition there called Journey by Dots, and then I had my first international solo show in America where I created the largest Braille Scrabble board ever, where people could play Scrabble through Braille and colour. But like I say, I'm off to Venice in a month's time, the Venice Biennale Fellowship, and that is like the Champions League of the art world. And so every time I'm doing something, it's a proud moment. Working with Harry Kane on a piece for the Disability FA Cup, that's a pinch me moment. That's a proper punch me moment. I want to do more of that. I want to work with mega stars and brands, because that's the only way me as an artist is going to make a difference and not be seen as a hobby. If I'm working with the likes of Nike and Lego, I'm seen as a professional artist. Like Yuki Lori. I'm inspired by the artist Yuki Lori. He works in words, he works in colour, he goes to schools and inspires people about dreams and aspirations. I go to schools, I work in colour, I talk about kids and their dreams and aspirations. The only difference between me and him is I have a white cane and he doesn't. And so he's seen as professional and I'm not. So Yuki Lori is a person I admire and want to collaborate in the future, actually. I would love to work with him.
What would you like to see change in the art world over the next 5 or 10 years?
I mean, I think the art world is a world of fads, and I hate the word fad. I love being rejected. I never got into the art world not to be rejected. It's not like, oh, here you are on a plate, and I'm not here on merit. You've not chosen me because, oh, look, here's a blind artist. Oh, we need to be woke, right? You've not done that. You've looked at the beauty and the quality of my artwork, the storytelling, and that's what it should be down to. It should be down to storytelling, not the gender, the disability, the colour, the sexual orientation. I think we've lost the sight of what is art. We put too many chapters in a book. Why can't it be just like The Voice? You see a piece of artwork and you turn your chair around and who cares if it's created by one of those boxes that we put into? And I think the art world needs to stop putting artists into tick box exercises. What's next for me is obviously working with Indelible Art Gallery. I'm so excited. I'm looking forward to growing as an artist with a gallery. I think that's really important. I think a lot of artists take that for granted. It's a hard world. I work really hard and I enjoy what I do. And I enjoy being in a gallery which has a family environment. I get that from Indelible. So I'm excited to share my love and my joy and my passion for art and for them to go on this journey with me, because the only way I can grow as an artist is having a team behind me. There's no way I can have those aspirations like the Miami Art Basel, things like that, without having a great gallery behind me. So that is the biggest mission that we're going to go on together.